You're good to go, Mayor.
Appreciate that. We good? Okay. Thank you for joining us for the March 23rd, 2021 meeting of the Hendersonville Board of Mayor and Aldermen. We're going to begin as we typically do. That's with a prayer and a pledge. So please join me in standing. I'm going to lead us in prayer and then lead us in the pledge. Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together and thank you for this opportunity to serve you tonight. Help us to take the gifts, talents, and abilities that you have so graciously given us and use them to do your work, not just tonight, but as we go from here. And please especially help us to remember and to thank and show appreciation to the people who protect us here and the people who protect us far away. And also help us to remember and help us to ask for your continued grace on Tina Martin and Celeste Davidson and anybody else in our heart and our mind that needs special attention as they deal with sickness or they deal with family sickness. And help us to do your work again tonight and help us to go forward from here. And thank you for bringing us together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, to the republic
one nation,
which is
under
God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all.
Appreciate that. I'll entertain a motion to accept our agenda.
So move.
We have a motion from Alderman Waters. I'm sorry, Annette. Thank you for reminding me again. Annette, please call the roll.
Brown,
Here.
Campbell,
Here.
Collins,
Here.
Cunningham,
Here.
Dixon,
Here.
Edwards,
Here.
Hayes,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Petrelli,
Here.
Robertson,
Here.
Skidmore,
Here.
Waters,
Here.
and Clary.
Here.
13 present.
We have a motion from Alderman Waters to accept the agenda. I need a second. We have a second from Alderman Peterson. Alderman Brown.
I have nothing to add.
I'll make a motion.
Alderman Edwards.
I'd like the motion to amend. It's the vote on, it's item 8A, vote on appointment, reappointment of the city judge. I would make a motion to move that to right after acceptance of agenda.
Second. We have a motion from Alderman Edwards, a second from Alderman Robertson. Any discussion on that? All those in favor of moving item 8A, which is the appointment of city judge, to be considered right after the acceptance of agenda, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13 aye.
Thank you, Annette. That passes unanimously. Any other proposed amendments to our agenda? I'm looking everywhere for hands or for nods. All those in favor of accepting the agenda as amended, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon, Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
That passes unanimously. We have an agenda. Next item on our agenda is the appointment of the city judge. This is under other agenda items. Item A, it's the vote on the appointment or the reappointment of our city judge. Alderman Brown.
I would like to make a motion that we reappoint the Honorable Judge Curtis Lincoln.
I second that.
We have a motion from Alderman Brown, a second from Alderman Waters. We do not have any other motions, any other nominations? All those in favor of reappointing Judge Curtis Lincoln as the city judge, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
I would say aye, but did we ask him if he would accept it if we voted him in?
Thanks.
I'm assuming he would.
Thank you.
Is he here?
He is. Judge Lincoln, would you like to speak? Alderman Brown, would you like to hear him? He seems he's willing. He did turn in his paperwork and he did show up.
Yeah, I'd like to hear him at least say something. Give him a couple minutes, you know.
Uh-oh, that ain't enough for him.
Judge Lincoln.
I don't know why they're picking on me. I hadn't heard either one of
Roll Tide.
them. Go along with that.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye when Annette calls your name. Those opposed, please say no.
Brown,
Absolutely an aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
I guess so. Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Always wanted to vote for a Lincoln, so I vote aye.
excuse me, Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters, and Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
That passes unanimously. Judge Lincoln, thank you for your service. Thank you for your continued service. You're interested in continuing to serve. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you for the vote. I was a little disappointed in the amount of time it took Alderman Waters to say aye.
I love you, brother.
One of these days.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Congratulations.
I
Thanks.
appreciate the honor. Anything Lieutenant Dan has to say, y'all pay attention.
Congratulations.
Thank you for maintaining the dignity of the court.
John Bradley, have we disposed of that properly?
Yes, Your Honor, I believe Mr. Mayor, I believe we've taken care of it. We've got a judge reappointed for 4-year term.
That's not something I want to screw up, so I appreciate that.
You got it right.
Next on the agenda is a presentation from Justin Curry. Justin, Justin's with us by Zoom. He is the CEO as of January 1st of Hendersonville TriStar Medical Center. I met with Justin, had a couple conversations with him. Justin, we're very pleased that you're here in our community. We're very pleased you're joining with us tonight. If you could give us a few minutes and give us an update on what you're seeing in relation to COVID-19. And we very much appreciate you spend this time with us and giving sort of the inside scoop of what's going on. So Justin, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me?
We can hear you well.
All right. Well, I appreciate the invite. I'm honored to speak before you. Mayor Clary and I spoke exactly a week ago about the status of COVID-19 in our community and what we're seeing at TriStar Hendersonville. I was pleased at the time and cautiously optimistic to report that we had been witnessing a all-time low since the onset of the pandemic as far as inpatients with COVID-19. We had crossed the double-digit threshold, and we're seeing single-digit inpatients at that time. Just for scale purposes, we had been up to the mid-50s at the height of the pandemic as far as inpatients at TriStar Hendersonville. Unfortunately, in a week's time, we've seen a fairly significant, as far as a percentage increase in patients go, and we're back up to about 15 or so patients in house. Not incredibly of incredible magnitude relative to our all-time high, but certainly an increase. I do know that the Tennessee Hospital Association is reporting higher cases as well throughout the state. And so my message at that time to the Chamber of Commerce board and tonight is that we need to continue our diligence. We need to continue to promote masking, distancing, and vaccinations for those eligible. We at TriStar Hendersonville are conducting vaccination clinics for those eligible twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We had a couple hundred community members get vaccinated today, actually. One other important note that I mentioned and always mention when I have an audience, we as a healthcare community have seen throughout the pandemic significant decreases in emergency room volume, somewhere around 15 to 25%, depending on location. And we want to just encourage the community and let the community know that hospitals are incredibly safe. There is virtually no communication of the disease within the hospital setting. And we do know that there are studies being conducted and will continue to be conducted showing that there has been delay and postponement in routine screenings such as colonoscopies, mammography, et cetera. And the long-term impact of that is likely to be significant. We can curb that now by encouraging people to go to the hospital if they're experiencing symptoms of disease and to maintain their maintenance exams and visits to primary care, et cetera. So I'm here tonight to just continue to be a champion of the practices that we've had in place. We've seen some light at the end of the tunnel. We're all excited about that, and but we're not there yet. So I thank you for your leadership in the community. I'm incredibly thankful to be in the role at TriStar Hendersonville, and I look forward to working with you in the future. I'll gladly try to answer any questions if I can.
Okay. Justin, I'm looking down the list of that I have of our aldermen. I'm looking to my left and to my right. I don't see any questions. Anybody feel free to raise your hand or to jump up and down or get my attention somehow. Justin, real quickly, you mentioned, I think you said something about clinic or visits on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I didn't quite catch all of that.
We're doing vaccinations at the hospital for those in the phases that are eligible on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we'll be posting that on our social media outlets so that the community can go and sign up for vaccines.
Do they sign up through the state of Tennessee website, or do they sign up through something else?
No, we have our own portal that they attest to meeting their eligibility and then sign up for an appointment.
Okay. So if somebody goes to sign up on the state's website, it says it's 4 weeks away, it makes sense for them to try your portal.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. I appreciate that. Alderman Collins. Okay. Appreciate that. Justin, appreciate your time. Appreciate you being with us.
Mayor, I got a question. I'm sorry.
Alderman Waters, go ahead.
Justin, Jim Waters, if you've had the first dose, can we come up and get the second dose?
I believe so, as long as it is the same vaccine, but I will gladly check into that, and I can email you.
Excuse me, go ahead. I'm sorry. We got our first dose up at the Volunteer State, and I'm to go back this week for my second one. So I didn't know whether I could just walk up there to your place instead of driving to Gallatin to get my second one. You don't know that?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I will reach out to you with an answer. How about that?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Good to see you.
Thank you.
I'll connect you two by email in the morning.
Okay,
Thanks,
so thank
Mayor.
you.
Appreciate that. Any other questions? Justin, thank you. We'll
All right,
probably
take
have you
care.
back in
Thanks.
6 or 8
Bye.
weeks. Okay,
Thank you.
Bye. Next, we have a presentation by Green Village Recycling. Jason, are you with us? This is Jason DiStefano. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Alderman. And I'd like to especially thank Alderman Roberson for inviting me to speak this evening on recycling. When I heard that the city was considering another RFP for recycling, I wanted to share some changes and some things that have occurred from 2020 into 2021 with recycling. The good news is that recycling as a whole is doing very well, and the demand is significantly higher in the past year. I don't know if it's a combination of people being at home from COVID or staying sheltered and seeing all of the material that they were previously landfilling, or if it's just a lot more people becoming aware or moving into the area. But we have seen a significant increase in interest from residents in the past 12 months. With that said, we can also identify that there are a couple of challenges, and I had shared some of these thoughts with Alderman Roberson, and he asked me to join this evening and kind of talk about some of the challenges we've seen. Again, I want to reiterate that recycling is doing well as an industry, but here are a few things that we've had as changes. First, from 2020 to 2021, we had multiple outlets as a company providing recycling to Hendersonville and surrounding communities. We had outlets that we could take the recycling materials to, and they would process it. And those materials for the past 10 years have cost us next to nothing to process into recycled items. Today, we have one option, and that's unfortunate because there's not as much competition and the processors and providing recycling service. So we have fewer locations to take the material to. That in turn created an increase in fees. So since there's only one provider or one processing facility for us to take these materials to, there's no competition. And so fees went from $0 a ton to $55 on the low end and $75 a ton on the high end. We've been in business since 2010, and we've never paid any type of fees to process materials, and we were never paid anything to process materials. It was always a wash. In 2021, we were notified that we were looking at somewhere between $2,500 and $3,500 a month in increase. And as a small company, we have to eat that. I mean, we either pass it along and increase to customers, which we have not, or we pay that increase. So I wanted to share the landscape has changed from being a zero cost to being a fee-based service. And then the third component that changed was there are more restrictions, not a lot more restrictions on the materials being recycled, but there are some. Probably the most obvious one to our customers, and we service over 1,000 homes in Hendersonville and many more in the surrounding area in Middle Tennessee. We were told by our processor we could no longer accept materials in bags. And if you can imagine how challenging that might be to many of our customers, we have the greatest customers in the world here in Hendersonville. I mean, a lot of folks want to recycle, they want to do it the right way. And we were told no more bags. So we had to pass that along to our customers to say, somehow or another, bring your material to your cart outside. We tell them, bring it in the bag and then dump the bag material out into the container. So it's been a bit of a challenge. We haven't seen any other restrictions, but I can tell you that with fewer options for processing, more restrictions in materials, and an increase in fees, these are some elements that I wanted to share. Now, that being said, I'm a huge proponent of citywide recycling for Hendersonville. I don't want to discourage it. I don't want to discourage an RFP, but I think you need to take into consideration as you consider a request for a proposal that these new changes have taken effect in 2021. That leaves me with a few options that the city has. One is to continue to move forward, get an RFP in place, and then try to figure out how to fund and support that on the back end. My recommendation is consider having some budget monies set aside. Those budget monies going towards the tipping fees for processing recycling. And I want to add that those fees are paid to guarantee recycling. We don't pay those fees and expect that material to wind up in the landfill. We watch it very closely. And therein lies the reason to have to pay the tipping fee for recycling. So the city has to look at a budget. If you put an RFP out, you have to look at it and say, what would we spend on a month-to-month basis? I can tell you right now, with just around 1,000 customers, we're spending around $3,000 a month. that number increases to 5,000 customers, that number goes up. That money can either be budgeted separately, or it may even come from the reduction in landfill material going to the landfill itself. And those monies that would normally be paid for landfilling would then go towards paying for the recycling. The next alternative is to consider waiting 6 to 12 months and see if more processors become available in the market in Middle Tennessee. See if maybe some of the restrictions are lifted and if fees are reduced. We support at Green Village Recycling, recycling for residents and commercial businesses in Middle Tennessee and in Hendersonville and Sumner County. We want to see a citywide program, but I wanted to share with you the state of recycling as we go into the second quarter of 2021. We do have a few indications that there may be some changes in the positive throughout the year as petroleum prices increase. That drives up the cost of raw materials, and in return, the demand for recyclable or recycled materials becomes more, and the price becomes much more favorable. So there could be some changes as we go along through the year, but I just wanted to take the time. And again, I want to thank Alderman Roberson, the mayor, and the board of mayor and aldermen for giving me the opportunity to provide this information and answer any questions if you have any.
Hey, Jason, option one, can you give me an idea of the diversion that you create from just inside the city limits of Hendersonville and what the savings in the city's tipping fees are?
Yeah, I think we calculated it, and it's late in the day, so I don't have our staff here to ask them for that information, but I believe we calculated it recently, and I want to say we were in the neighborhood of around 20 to 30 tons per month for the city of Hendersonville, which, I mean, that would equate to, on the high end, somewhere around $1,500 to $2,000 in actual monetary value. Again, yeah, that's a small number of homes for Hendersonville.
Okay. Alderman Robert, any other questions? Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, Jason, for being here and sharing with us this information, because we want to make the best decision possible. I know that those board members that have been here a while know, but for the new board members, can you just briefly explain what you're doing in White House or Springfield? I think it's is it Springfield?
Yes. Yes.
Explain, and have you had to go up on the price in Springfield based upon the tipping fee charge?
Right. So at this point, we have not. We have, as I mentioned before, the increase in the landfill and the recycling tipping fees are equivalent to about what landfill tipping fees would be. At one time, it was sort of a savings to do recycling. Now it's almost the same cost, but the material does get properly processed and recycled into new material. But in the city of Springfield, years ago, we did a pilot program similar to what we did in Hendersonville. They took the information from the pilot program, they looked at the diversion, and Springfield really wanted to have a good recycling program. So they opened up an RFP, similar to the way Hendersonville did last year, and they chose a opt-in program for their residents, where the residents actually pay the utility on their utility bill, because Springfield is actually also the utility. And I believe it was about $11 a month that was added to the utility bill. And so as Green Village was awarded with that contract about 3 years ago, maybe 4, and we have been providing the recycling services to hundreds of homes in Springfield. They have what is considered to be a citywide recycling program. It is an opt-in program for the residents to choose. No one is forced to take it. They do pay a little extra, and then Green Village Recycling picks up, collects the material, takes it to the processing facility. So that has worked quite well for them. Again, they are also providing their own waste services through the city of Springfield, and they are also the utility service. So there's some different economics there because they can actually collect the revenue from the residents as opposed to hundreds of residents writing individual checks and mailing it to our company.
Thank you.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Any other questions? Jason, thank you for joining us, and thank you for the service you provide here, and quite honestly, for the diversion you create and the savings that you create for the city.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the time and have a great evening.
Appreciate it. We have no public hearings. I'll entertain a motion to approve our minutes from the March 9th, 2021 meeting.
So move.
We have a motion from Alderman Waters
Second.
and a second from Alderman Campbell. All those in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. When Annette calls your name, those opposed, please say no.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
Passed unanimously. Thank you, Annette. Now we have first reading of ordinance 2020-39. This is an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 9, Chapter 1, regarding peddlers and solicitations. Alderman Brown.
So moved.
Second.
A motion from Alderman Brown, a second from Alderman Petrelli. Alderman Petrelli, was it you?
I think it was on.
Appreciate that. I'm looking to see if anybody, Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, committee, for bringing this to the board. And I have a question for the sponsor. And I'm trying to find it right quick, but the hours for legal peddling or solicitation, door-to-door solicitations, is from 8 to 6 o'clock. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there any way that we can change that to 9 o'clock and 5 o'clock? Because I get complaints in my neighborhood from time to time that somebody came at 8 o'clock knocking on their doors trying to solicit them. And I'm just wondering, would that be a friendly amendment to change the times to 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock?
Yes.
Alderman Petrelli says yes. Alderman Brown, Alderman Edwards.
They can both jump in. This has actually been a while. This was discussed in committee and passed in committee, but we were having, all three of us were having some of the same problems that you had just talked about, Mr. Robertson, as well as some other aldermen on the board. When folks, the biggest problem was folks working late into the evening after dark, knocking on constituents' doors, which startled them and scared them quite a bit. That's the reason you'll see that we have Central Standard Time and Daylight Savings Time, and there were those hours switched. So, you know, at that time in the evening, the sun will have set, so they'll have to quit. So we also discussed thoroughly what time to start. Saturday morning, some folks are out at 8 o'clock. You know, what I would tell you, an amendment is fine with me, whatever this board decides. But I think our biggest issue was evening hours more than morning hours, but we certainly can move morning hours up to 9 o'clock. You're not gonna, knocking on my door on Saturday morning, 9 o'clock is not gonna be a pretty sight for you to see anyway. So, but that actually might save the solicitor a little issue. So I'll yield the floor to either of my co-sponsors.
Alderman Edwards.
Would Alderman Robertson consider changing the 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time or 7 o'clock p.m. Central, I guess that's daylight savings, to 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And are we changing the 8 to 9?
Yeah, is that what you wanted also?
I would like to leave it at 9
Okay.
on the mornings.
Mm-hmm.
So if I understand the proposed amendment correctly, we're going to change from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock a.m. We're going to change the 6 o'clock to 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock.
Correct.
It makes sense to me because I'm looking at it. I think I probably confused anybody watching on TV. Alderman, so we've got a motion, Alderman Edwards, Alderman Robertson.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Alderman Robertson, a second from Alderman Petrelli. Alderman Petrelli, I'll come to you in just a second. Alderman Petrelli, do you want to speak on this, or should we go ahead and vote on the amendment first?
Sure. Well, this might pertain to the amendment.
Go ahead.
As I'm reading the legislation, one thing that we didn't discuss, and this might be a question for Mr. Bradley, but I guess we're leaving this open for 7 days a week. Is that correct, Mr. Bradley?
Yes, that's correct.
I would like to at least eliminate Sundays. I don't think anybody wants solicitors at their house on family days. So if the amendor would like to include that, if he's comfortable with it, but can we do that, Mr. Bradley, with the permitted?
What I'm going to ask you to do, Ms. Petrelli, once we're starting to make these changes, I'm going to ask you to send it back to the general committee. There is no group more vocal than solicitors and their lobbies and their lawyers. And I think we need to go back to committee with this, and we'll see what we can do. And we'll look at the hours and also the days of the week. I'm not sure exactly what the restrictions are now, but this is certainly something that's not particularly urgent since it's been the way it is for many years. So I would suggest that we send this back to committee.
I can remove my proposed amendment on days of the week with the time change. Would it still need to go back to committee?
If that's all you're changing, you're restricting it each day. You're restricting the time that's available by 2 hours. So that's pretty significant amount of time. But we can try that on first reading and see if we get it. Maybe look around, see what some other cities are doing in the meantime. I'm not sure what the driving force behind this was. I know that during COVID, when it was so bad, when we had City Hall completely closed down, we stopped soliciting altogether. And we had numerous groups threaten to sue us in federal court over that. But we finally worked our way through that. So if all you're doing is restricting it 1 hour, we can certainly go ahead and pass it on first reading that way.
Okay. Mayor, if you can let Alderman Robertson know, I'm going to remove the days of the week and just stick to his hours at this point. But the impetus of this legislation was we had quite a bit of calls to police, and police can speak to that, and calls to aldermen, at least on our peninsula, the Walton Ferry Saunders Ferry Peninsula, because there was quite a bit of activity after dark, and it was scaring folks, having unknown people step on their property after dark. That's just not appropriate. But that was the impetus.
I know in some jurisdictions the deadline is sunset. So I mean that's just another thought, but I think it's fine the way you have it.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Petrelli, thank you. Alderman Brown.
Thank you. The screen was moving around on me. I believe that the way our statute is written right now, it says sunset. But we decided to put specific times in there because that was being manipulated a bit. But like I said before, our biggest problem, and I agree with Alderman Petrelli, was the phone calls I was receiving about people being at their house 8 o'clock in the evening, 8:15 in the evening. They had dinner and were settling in to watch TV or have family night or whatever, and all of a sudden the doorbell rings. Didn't really have any complaints too much about soliciting. Some people don't like it, period, but that's the way folks make a living, and I honor them for that. Going to door to door is a hard thing to do, but I think there comes a time that has to stop. So some of them were kind of abusing that. So that's the reason we went with the restriction, especially in the evening. I don't know necessarily so much about the mornings, but I agree with Mr. Bradley. I think we can certainly move forward with this. If folks want to challenge that, that's fine. That's the reason we have Mr. Bradley. So there you go. My opinion. I'm ready.
Does anybody else wish to speak on the amendment? Thank you, Alderman Brown. So the amendment, as I heard it, was the very last part of this proposed ordinance is no solicitation shall begin prior to, and we're changing that, 9 a.m. and solicitation shall cease by 5 p.m. Central Standard Time or 6 p.m. Central Daylight Standard Time. I'm seeing heads nod up and down that I have that correct. All in favor of that amendment, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
Thank you, Nat. That passes unanimously. Now we're back on the main motion as amended. Does anybody wish to speak on this? All those in favor of first reading of ordinance 2020-39, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Sorry. Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
That passes unanimously. That was the main motion. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct.
Again, that's first reading, so that has to come back to us for second reading. Now we have first reading of ordinance 2021-08. This is ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 8, Chapter 2 regarding beer. Alderman Edwards.
So moved.
Motion from Alderman Edwards, second from Alderman Brown. Am I correct?
Correct.
Aye.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, let me say a couple little things.
Alderman Edwards, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sure all the BOMA members received an email from Director Gilly dated March 19th. He sent it to all the BOMA members, and he outlined in there the intent of this proposed ordinance and what it does, and he's quite the wordsmith. So I don't think I can improve on his explanation. So if anybody, I hope everybody read it, and if anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. Or Director Gilly may be able to get on the line to answer.
Thank you, Alderman Edwards. Alderman Collins. Alderman Collins, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
I do have a question. My understanding is that this means that instead of the nonprofit getting the license through the beer committee, the venue would do that. So when the venue is a nonprofit, which I think there are about 3 situations like that in Hendersonville, and they rent out their property for weddings. So if the wedding has a cash bar, would the venue use up one of their 12 per year abilities to get a special occasions permit?
I may defer to our city attorney. The way I understand it, if any beer is sold, that would be a special event. And such as Monhaven and Rockcastle would have to, if they get the special occasions beer permit, they can use that 12 times a year. It is my understanding if any beer is sold in the city, then that would be one of their uses. So to answer your question, yes, but and Attorney Bradley can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're at a wedding and they're giving away beer, that's different. This only involves the selling of beer.
But a lot of weddings do have cash bars these days. So
Well, that would not
Right.
be legal in
Again,
Hendersonville unless we had a permit from our beer board.
So hold on, John and Alderman Collins, I need you to repeat what you just said. We had sort of a couple people talking up here. Go ahead.
I just said that having the sale of beer at a wedding in Hendersonville would not be legal under current law unless it was somehow sponsored by a nonprofit and approved by the beer board. And we're only talking about beer here also. We need to understand that alcoholic beverages other than beer are regulated by the state. This has nothing to do with that. There's a state permit that's required for the sale of whiskey or strong drink and wine.
But Attorney Bradley, and if they're at a wedding, it's say Rockcastle, and they're giving away beer, they would not need a permit for that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
but that's less common now than a cash bar at a wedding. And Rockcastle would certainly, but it sounds like cash bars for weddings inside of Hendersonville are not legal.
Not without a special occasions permit.
Mhm.
Did you want to speak?
And I think in the past, the people getting married would obtain those permits.
I'm not aware of that ever happening. Ms. Hunter, are you aware of that, Annette?
No, I'm not aware of that. The key thing here is the nonprofit. Has to be the one pulling that. And Alderman Collins, you mentioned about it being the venue. It would actually be, and Mr. Bradley, correct me if I'm wrong on this, it would actually be the event coordinator that would be pulling or being issued the permit if they met the qualifications of the insurance and the things set forth in the Hendersonville Municipal Code.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
With this proposed ordinance, yes, if this passes, then the private entity could obtain that special occasions beer permit and they wouldn't be required to go to a nonprofit. But if it's at Rock Castle or Monhaven, I'm sure those places
They are non.
can go and obtain the permit. Or if you have if you have a wedding coordinator, if it's a proper entity that has insurance and meets qualifications, that person or entity would be able to obtain the permit.
Alderman Collins, anything else, or I'm going to go to Alderman Waters?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, we can come back to you if we need to. Alderman Waters.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not in.
Oh, sorry about that. Alderman Robertson.
Thank you. I have a question for Mr. Bradley. I'm interested in exploring what kind of controls the city can exercise regarding the sale of strong alcohol. And strong alcohol would be anything over wine. So if we give a beer permit, a special event beer permit to an entity, can we restrict the sale if they have an ABC license or a permit from the state? Can we, as a condition of that beer permit, prevent that entity from selling hard liquor?
No.
I don't see how we could legally do that. That there are two different entities that are involved here. And if they're selling hard liquor, what we've always looked at this before from the beer board's point of view, if an establishment has an ABC permit, it makes no sense to not allow them to also have a city beer permit. Because in theory, it takes a lot more beer to get someone intoxicated and thus a danger on the road than it would with those other kinds of alcohol. So, but no, they're two separate things, and I'm not sure how we would be able to somehow restrict a properly issued permit by the state of Tennessee with our beer board.
So, and maybe Mr. Gilly can answer this. So it's my understanding that if this ordinance passes, that an event planner would have to go first to the beer board to get a special permit, a special event beer permit, and then have to go to the parks board to get the event in one of our parks approved. So is there any way in either the beer process, the beer committee, or the parks board that we could ask them if they intend to serve strong alcohol in the application?
Yes, Mr. Roberts, let me answer that if I could. I think the way it's supposed to work is they would have to go. First of all, this ordinance that Mr. Edwards has proposed that has nothing to do with the parks. It could apply in the parks, but it's not just about the parks. It's about any place in the city of Hendersonville. Yes. With respect to the parks, it's my understanding, and Mr. Gilly can correct me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding that the parks board would have to approve an event before the beer board would even consider it. Because the beer board, the parks board controls what goes on in the parks. Could the parks board say, we're going to approve this as long as you promise you don't get an ABC permit? I suppose they could try that. I've not heard of that. That would be something we'd have to try to figure out as we went forward. But there are some legal problems I would think with that. But potentially the parks board might have a little more control over that than the beer board would. The beer board's got to issue a permit if they meet the criteria. The Parks Board can decide who has an event with alcohol in the parks.
Okay.
I think Mr. Gilly would agree with that.
So I would like to ask Mr. Gilly a question. Mr. Gilly, would you anticipate not allowing a particular events in the parks, especially where there are recreational activities, that would be one of the criteria about restricting the use of hard liquor in the parks?
First of all, I don't anticipate us ever approving of an event where there's youth athletic activities going on to have alcohol. Our hometown jam that we had 2019 served beer and hard liquor, both. I don't know. Obviously, the Parks Board, I can't speak for them, but the Parks Board is going to look at every event on its own merit. I don't know, like Mr. Bradley said, legally, if they have an ABC permit and a beer permit, I'm not sure we can divide the two up. I just have to trust our Parks Board to know what's appropriate and what's not. So far, they've done a good job of that. I'm not real sure I'm not legally smart enough to answer that question. I'm not sure.
Okay. The other question I wanted to ask you, Mr. Gilly, is I don't see anywhere in this ordinance, and I've looked up all the park regulations that I could find online, but I don't see anywhere in this ordinance that the event organizer is responsible for cleaning up their mess, cleaning up the trash, cleaning up, or paying the city for doing that. So it appears to me that if we have a big event, there could be a lot of garbage, a lot of cleanup. And the way I read the ordinance, the city staff, your staff would have to go out and clean that up. And in fact, instead of the event organizer paying for that, like they do at Rock Castle, the city taxpayers would have to pay to clean that up. So am I reading the ordinance and the regulations right, that there is no anticipated fee expected to charge for cleanup after these events by the organizer?
On every event application, it asks if they need trash or extra maintenance, and we have a schedule of fees within our department for those things if needed, if it's outside the scope of what we normally do for extra events, extra trash cans, other things like that.
But you wouldn't anticipate, as it comes to the park board, to put that fee up front, have the organizer agree to pay, whatever, $500 a cleanup fee up front, so that it's clear that they have to pay that fee as part of the permit process.
Part of the application, part of the packet for alcohol in the parks calls for a $500 fee right off the top, just for having an event that has alcohol in it. So that's one of the reasons why that fee is in there. That's way above and beyond what other events charge.
Okay, say that I didn't actually hear the first part. How much?
Sorry, I'm actually at the park, so there's in the events with alcohol regulations, when we put that in a couple years ago, there's a fee of $500 just to have an event in the park that has alcohol, which is way above and beyond any rental fee that we have for anything else. And one of the reasons for that is just what you're talking about, because of any kind of extra stuff that we might incur. Okay.
Well, I think that answers my question there. Then the city does receive some that could pay your staff to do the cleanup. It goes to the city. Okay, that's all the questions that I have.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Edwards or Director Gilly, I was wondering, is there a fee that we charge for the permit?
Hold on.
You're talking about just going before the beer board?
Yes.
Yeah, Annette should know that. I don't know the exact amount, but there is a fee. I don't know the amount.
For the nonprofits, it's $100.
Okay.
But for just a regular, well, this wouldn't apply. For a special occasion, for a nonprofit, it's $100.
And does the beer board collect the 20% from the event?
Okay, so you're asking about the 20% that we've proposed. That is one of the amendments to propose to give to nonprofits. That would be up to the what the private entity would communicate that to their chosen nonprofit. The way I understand it, that we discussed it at the beer board, is that it would be up to that private entity to give that directly to the nonprofit. And if the nonprofit knows about it, and they don't get their money, they're going to reach out. So the beer board in the city really doesn't have any interaction there. It's just a direct payment, and it's gross alcohol sales, 20% of all gross alcohol sales to their chosen nonprofit.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman
Thank
Peterson,
you.
thank you. Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is really well written, the ordinance, and it further does not restrict the ability to be able to have functions and events at our parks. And I think our Parks Board and our Parks Director and his staff have done a wonderful job in being able to coordinate and control these events. And I don't think any further government restrictions need to be applied to this, because it would in effect be government overreach, in my opinion. And I am in full support of this ordinance. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Anybody else wish to discuss? All those in favor of first reading ordinance 2021-08, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Sorry.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
No.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
No.
and Clary.
No.
10 ayes, 3 noes.
Thank you, Annette. That passes with majority vote. Now we have first reading of ordinance 2021-09. This is an ordinance regarding video recording of the meetings of all standing committees. Alderman Petrelli.
So moved.
Second.
Alderman Petrelli, is this first reading?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I apologize. I'm a little bit confused here. We have a motion from Alderman Petrelli and a second from Alderman Campbell, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that. Alderman Petrelli, Alderman Campbell, do you wish to speak on this? Alderman Cunningham's in the queue. Alderman Cunningham.
Go ahead, Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, are there any plans to, once we go live with our BOMA, which hopefully will be in the next, month or so, where we'll have in-person meetings, is there any plans on recording, having them live also on YouTube, such as the committee meetings that we're addressing here?
We've sort of figured that out, obviously. We figured out how to do that, and there have been discussions about that. It does take some staff, but there are definitely some rewards there. So yeah, there are discussions, certainly not any decisions. And quite frankly, right now, it would be up to the chairman of whether or not they want to do that. But it probably is something that we should consider as a board, to be honest with you.
No, I mean, you as the chairman of BOMA.
Oh,
that's what I meant, the BOMA meetings.
Honestly, I haven't thought about it. But we have the technology, we have the ability, and the difference is it just takes a couple more hours of staff time.
Okay, because I want to know if the sponsors of this ordinance would consider including BOMA, but I wanted to make sure that the chairman of BOMA was in agreement with that first.
We pretty much have the recordings of our meetings up usually within a day and a half.
Yeah, but the people like it live. They're used to it live now.
Well, I get that, but this ordinance doesn't pertain to live recordings, just recordings. It doesn't pertain to live broadcasting, just the recorded
I'm happy to amend it to add live streaming if that's the will.
I'm looking at Jason right now, and he's giving us a thumbs up saying that we can do that.
If we can video them to start with, making them live is just 2 clicks.
Okay. So I'm going to repeat that. So since we can do what we do right now, making them live with everybody here is very simple.
Okay, well, should we amend this ordinance to include BOMA and then include it as live? After all of us meet in person. I mean, I'm talking about everyone sitting in the same room and nobody on Zoom.
So here's what I'm going to do. Without objection, I'm going to suspend the rules to hear from Jason. He can help explain sort of what that takes.
Okay.
But possibly the smartest thing to do after we hear from him is, if this is going to pass on first reading, is maybe leave it alone and then have our IT department figure out how to insert that language for the second reading, if that's the will of the board. Jason, can you answer Alderman Cunningham's question?
What I was going to say was pertaining to going live. The only room we're prepared to go live from is the main meeting room here at City Hall. We have some preparations to do recordings in the other 3 meeting rooms here in the building, but as far as all of the audio equipment and video equipment, that's centered around this room.
Okay.
And the setup we've created here.
Thank you. Alderman Cunningham, anything else for Jason?
So Mayor, maybe we can at second reading look at just saying BOMA to be live and then the other committee meetings to be recorded.
Yeah.
Something along those lines, as long as everyone is in agreement on that.
Yeah.
I would like to speak if I can.
Who is that? Is it Alderman? I looked away for a second. Who just asked to speak?
The IT director.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Alderman Cunningham, I'll come back to you. Mary Beth.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
We do have cameras in the meeting rooms right now, and we can continue. We can do Zoom in those meetings, whether we're in person or not. So we do have the ability to live stream those and record those as well.
Yeah, I guess my question would be, do we need microphones and what kind of staff time that would take? But that's something we can figure out in the next 2 weeks.
Tina and I have tested conference room 1 already with a microphone that sits on the table, and it worked perfectly.
Okay. Alderman Cunningham.
Well, that's all. That was my suggestion. So we could maybe amend it at the second reading if everyone is in agreement. Thank you, Mayor.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Dixon.
I guess my question, thank you, Mayor, is for Alderman Petrelli. What is the retention time cycle for these videos, and should that be in this ordinance?
Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'll answer your question in 1 minute, Alderman Dixon. I just wanted to go back. I guess I should have clarified this legislation, but the point of this legislation is that once we do go live, that we have this opportunity to have our committee meetings available to our citizenry. Several folks have reached out over the course of this last long year and all of our Zoom meetings saying that they've really appreciated being able to see the different committee meetings, because not only is it adding another level of transparency, but they understand better why some decisions are being made when they come to BOMA. It's not out of the blue. So I reached out to our IT director, Mary Beth, and asked her, would it be very costly or time intensive to make this happen? She stated no. And before I leave the floor, I would like to ask the IT director if there's anything else she would like to add. Regarding retention, that would be a question for our IT director. I would just say follow the same protocols that we do with our BOMA meetings, which is pretty much, I don't want to speak for Mary Beth. Can you answer that, Mary Beth?
Absolutely, Vice Mayor Petrelli. We have those recordings. When we do a recording in Zoom, we record them and then dump them onto a hard drive or onto our servers so that we retain forever.
I was going to say infinity, but I didn't want to overspeak.
No, you're fine. And that's what we do.
Thank you.
Hold on one
Thank you,
second,
Mayor.
Alderman Dix, does that answer your question?
Are they, when you say you place them on a server forever, are they viewable by the citizens forever?
We keep them on our YouTube channel.
It's on the YouTube channel.
Correct, and we haven't removed them from there. So as long as that is available to us, we will keep them out there as well.
I guess I don't want retention to get lost in the minutia and someone decide to clean off our YouTube channel and then our citizens can't go back and look at them. So I would recommend that we put it in the retention period in our ordinance. That's my recommendation.
Okay. Do you want to propose something now, or do you want to put something together in the next couple of weeks and then propose it?
I think you're going to go back with this, right?
It does take 2 readings to pass it.
Yeah.
You are welcome.
I'm happy to make an amendment for indefinite
I can put
extension.
together language and when it comes back.
Okay. Alderman Petrelli. I'm sorry, Alderman Dix, anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Petrelli.
I'm happy to make an amendment for indefinite retention.
That would be fine.
Mr. Bradley, does that meet your legal terminology needs?
Not really. We've got other policies that deal with the retention of public records. We don't want to step on those. I suggest, as the mayor said, that we amend this on second reading if that's what we want to do, after we've looked at these other policies to see if that's even necessary.
Okay, so you'll be able to send that to me between now and then?
Yes.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate everybody's support on this. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Petrelli, anything else?
No, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Alderman Petrelli. I'm looking for anybody else wishing to speak. All those in favor of first reading of ordinance 2021-09, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
That passed unanimously. Thank you, Annette. Now we have first reading of ordinance 2021-10. This is an ordinance amending the budget ordinance 2020-20 and appropriating the amount of $16,500 for the police department to purchase the wrecked 2019 Harley-Davidson police motorcycle currently in their possession. Alderman Campbell.
So moved.
Second.
Motion for Alderman Campbell, second from Alderman Petrelli. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. Is the Chief Miller, Chief Jones on board?
I believe we've got Chief Jones with us on Zoom.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Hello, bud. How you doing?
Doing good, sir.
Chief, this motorcycle, can you give the board an up-to-date on what happened? What kind of accident we're talking about here to total out this motorcycle?
Yes, sir. So
Hold on one second.
briefly,
Without objection, we're going to hear from Assistant Chief Jim Jones. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Chief Jones.
okay, so one of our motor officers was involved in a traffic crash last year involving this motorcycle. And what happened was the Tennessee Highway Patrol, when they investigated the crash, they basically determined that it was a 50% on each operator as far as fault goes. And what that results in is we have to pay for our damages. The other driver had to pay for their damages. We're expected at the end of this lease to turn in an operational motorcycle to Harley-Davidson. That lease is coming due to expire. And so the bottom line is Harley-Davidson wanted $16,500 to repair that motorcycle from us. And then they were going to turn around and either and then resell the motorcycle. So what we looked at, we asked about just purchasing the bike outright to retain the usable parts, and they wanted $17,500 for us to purchase the bike. And through some negotiating with them, we got them down to 16,500, the cost of repairs, and we get to retain the motorcycle and the usable parts. Our thought there was if we just paid for the repairs, we're out 16,500 and we're done. If we retain the motorcycle for the same amount, working with our finance department, our intent is to declare that motorcycle surplus and attempt to auction the parts that are left off. And we're hopeful that we can recoup somewhere around $3,500, maybe $4,000 for those parts through someone who makes it a habit of purchasing that type of items, because we know that the engine and the transmission, which are probably the two most valuable parts, are still operational. So we just felt like financially that was the best thing to do, is to ask the board to appropriate the money to buy it, and then hopefully we can return, you know, $3,500, $4,000 to the general fund once that auction is complete.
Okay. Was anyone injured in the accident, Chief?
We had some minor injuries to our motor officer, but it wasn't anything serious, and he was back to work in relatively short order.
So there's no litigation involved right now?
No, sir. That's completely settled out.
Settled out how? What do you mean settled out?
Well, I mean, there's nothing remaining on it. We didn't sue them. They didn't
Okay.
sue us. You know, I mean, they were responsible to make their own repairs, and we were responsible to make ours.
So you're convinced it's 50-50 then, huh? Are you satisfied it's just much our fault it is the other person?
No, sir, not 100% of that, but we do, whenever we're involved in a crash involving a civilian vehicle, to avoid any potential allegations of conflict of interest, our normal response is to call THP to work that crash. And once we've done that, it's kind of up to their determination. We don't feel like our operator was at fault, but you know, there's really no way. I've had our reconstructionist look at it, and we're not really able to legally dispute what THP said.
Well, I'm all for it.
It's just our opinion based on what we saw at the scene.
I'm all for the ordinance 2110. That's not my question. Insurance was my concern, and I just felt like from reading what I read that we may have a legal question here of liability, but you're saying it's strictly based on the THP's report, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct. And we have not heard anything from the other drivers since then, since THP made their determination, and so we didn't, you know, try to dispute their findings.
Okay, Chief. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Waters, thank you.
Sir.
Assistant Chief Jones, thank you. All those in favor of first reading of ordinance 2021-10, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
Thank you, Annette. That passes with a unanimous vote. Now we have resolution 2021-11. This is a resolution amending the personnel rules to convert lost vacation carryover accrual hours to the city's sick bay annually. Alderman Hayes.
Thank you, Mayor. As you all see there, this is.
Alderman Hayes, I need you to make a motion first, please.
I make a motion that we pass this reading resolution 2021-11.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second from Alderman Edwards. Alderman Hayes, go ahead.
Yes, it's simply a resolution. We're trying to update a lot of our HR policies. Appreciate Director Taylor's efforts in that area. This one is especially generous to those who might be working for the city who have taken sick. It converts lost vacation carryover accrual hours to the city's sick bank annually. Any questions?
Yeah, Alderman Hayes, there's a couple items, there's a couple mentions here of the city administrator. It used to be the mayor who approved waivers. And I'll tell you how I did that was anybody who met the criteria and provided the paperwork before December 31st, I always gave them a waiver till the end of March. Typically, anybody who asked me for a waiver past March, the answer was no. And we've done a pretty good job with the city administrator of continuing that, but we need to remove city administrator and replace it with mayor in those two spots. So
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
And Alderman Hayes seconds that. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor of the amendment to strike city administrator and replace it with mayor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson, Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
That passes unanimously. Alderman Hayes, did you want to speak more? I've got Alderman Dixon waiting.
No, sir.
Appreciate that. Alderman Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Hayes, do we have any kind of estimation about how many hours this, say if we were doing this for 2020, how many hours would that have been that would fall into this sick bank?
Yeah, thank you, Alderman. I will defer this to Director Taylor.
Chris, can you help us with that?
Yes, I really don't have a good answer because right now we've got people taking off all over town. Everybody is trying to take as much vacation time as they can to get down to the threshold that we basically extended through the end of March. Typically, the way our pay periods work is we won't even know the answer to that confirmed until closer to mid-April, until the pay periods wrap up and we can update our system and see what everybody took across the city in this last pay period. The easiest answer to that without COVID is generally between 100 and 200 hours every year, give or take, any given year, obviously with circumstances.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Dixon, thank you. Chris, thank you. I don't see anybody else wishing to speak on this. All those in favor of resolution 2021-11 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
Thank you, Annette. That passes unanimously. Now we have resolution 2021-12. This is a resolution amending the job classification list and pay tables. Alderman Hayes.
Yes, amending the job classification list and pay tables, so moved.
Second.
Motion from Alderman Hayes, a second from Alderman Brown.
So you all see there on your list, this is just an updating in particular of the titles. So for example, instead of administrative clerk, be an administrative assistant 1. You see down below, if you're a senior administrative coordinator, you get such a designation. Some of these terms are probably from 10, 20, and even 30 years ago. So it's just an updating of the title.
Thank you, Alderman Hayes. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, my little hand wasn't working right. Mayor, this is a question for you. When are we going to do another pay study? Are we due one? Don't we do one every 4 years or so?
I believe we have to do one every 5 years.
Okay.
So I believe, Chris, help me out. We're still 2 years away.
Right at 2.5. Yeah, we're roughly halfway to our next one. That's correct.
Okay, so we would be doing one in 2 years from now, approximately?
We have to. We could do one sooner, but we have to do one every 5 years.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. All those in favor of resolution 2021-12, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon.
Hey, Annette, can you hold on 1 second? I'm sorry.
Aye.
There we go.
Excuse me, Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
I will still look forward when we have everybody back together. That passes unanimously. Thank you, Annette. Now we have resolution 2020-14. This is a resolution authorizing amendment to both the 2017-2021 consolidated plan and the 2020-2021 annual action plan. I so move.
Second.
I've got a motion from myself and a second from Alderman Waters. Alderman Robertson.
I have a question. Who from the staff is here to answer questions?
This is probably Grant or Keith. Without objection, we'll suspend the rules to allow Grant to address this if he needs. We don't need to suspend the rules to allow Keith to address this. Go ahead, Alderman Robertson.
Thank you. And Grant, we've talked about this before, but I wanted to further our discussion. Part of these funds that we received, the smaller portion has to do specifically with COVID effects, correct?
Well, it's typically we get about a $200,000 annual allocation for CDBG. However, this last year, due to the CARES Act, we received, we can have a reimbursable portion of $417,000 extra that we normally don't receive.
And I understand from our discussions, both in public works and private discussions, that the bulk of that, all but maybe a little bit of it, is going to go to the senior center for the paving, phase 2 paving. But also part of it is going to go to replace the heating and air conditioning unit that's required at the senior center. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, how did an air conditioning and heating unit qualify for COVID funds? I think I remember what you said, but I thought it was creative the way that you helped make that work. Tell us how you made it work.
Well, there is a very limited scope of things that are allowed under the coronavirus allocations of funding through the CARES Act. With that money that we did receive, it's a portion of that $417,000 we've dedicated in this plan to replace the HVAC, but to also add an air purification system, which in research that I've done and documented with HUD, it's one of the items that they do allow use of those funds for certain facilities. To as long as the air purification is essentially designed to reduce the transmission of viruses. So we looked at that, and last year with the budget, whenever we were looking at trying to offset some of the general fund expenses, that was created by the board to ask to see about trying to look at doing something like that. And fortunately, I've worked with HUD, and they did approve that initially. However, this is an amendment to last year's plan that essentially it takes care of the phase 2 with the parking lot site rehab for the whole senior center, and then also tries to allocate those funds. One of the other items, Mr. Robertson, that we looked at too with the extra funding, did write into the plan that we could also potentially use that for other public facilities improvements related to coronavirus. Unfortunately, it's very limited in scope, but if we can figure out other creative ways to spend that to help out, we can look at that in the future.
Boy, that's a great segue, because when you explained to me the creative way the staff was able to use that COVID money for the air conditioning unit with the purifier on it to make the air even purer, and possibly could use it in other facilities, that perked my attention. We're getting ready to build a new fire station, number 7. Mm-hmm. And that fire station is going to be, of course, house our firefighters. And they are very susceptible to COVID because of their nature of work. Do you think there's a way that HUD would approve the payment for the heating and air conditioning unit with the purifier on it for Station 7?
I would say it's likely, given that the senior center qualified for that. Generally, public buildings like the city hall and fire halls wouldn't qualify for like normal CDBG funding. However, there's a whole different set of allowances for the coronavirus money. So I think that would certainly be something that we could check with. I could definitely check with HUD on and see about the applicability of that to that. And I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, if you would, I would appreciate it. You know, we're trying to come up with contingency funds for that project. And if we could pay 100, 150, I don't know how much the unit, 200,000, and take the cost off of that fire station and use that for contingency funds, that would significantly help. So Mayor, without any objection, I would like for Grant to pursue that, to see if we can use that money to help fund the heating and air conditioning unit at number 7 to help lower our cost and getting our federal brothers to help us on that.
Sounds like a great idea. I just want to ask Keith Free, his supervisor, if there's any problems or any concerns about that.
No, we'll just, I agree with Grant. We certainly will look at being as creative as we can. Ultimately, it's just going to be to what HUD has. Typically, the location of that in Ward 6 is not, that area of Ward 6 is not a low to moderate income census area. So that could have an effect on it. The senior facility is assumed to benefit low to moderate income people. So it could be in the low moderate area or not in the low moderate area. I think it happens to actually be in the area, but it's a designated low moderate income facility. I don't know that the fire station would, but we certainly or get creative about it, because we're going to have to get creative with this $300 and some thousand extra that we got, or we're going to have to give it back. So we will get as creative as possible. A lot of the things, and probably Grant explained it in the committee meeting, but this coronavirus money, it's a lot of it, and a lot of it's got thrown to us, but the limits on it are extremely limiting. And it's really helpful for maybe larger cities that have health facilities and things like that. But it was given also to smaller facilities, which makes it a little bit more challenging to use. But we
okay,
certainly
then I have another idea of how to spend that money as well. Every year in our budget, the General Committee recommends the expenditure of money to not-for-profit organizations. Those not-for-profit organizations, many of those, like the Salvas Center and Meals on Wheels and other things that we give, surely serve the community that HUD is wanting to target. So my question is, I would like for the staff to also find out if we could use some of that money to provide grants to the not-for-profits that would possibly save our budget of the amount. I don't remember. Do you remember, Alderman Hayes, how much is in the not-for-profit? It's over $100,000, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So to see if we could use that COVID money in helping the not-for-profits and replacing the money that we typically provide in the budget to save us there. So that's just two ideas. I'm sure other aldermen may have other ideas to just explore in thinking outside the box. So thanks to the staff for being creative and looking for ways to benefit, the community and the city. And I'm anxious to see the results of your work on these two ideas that I brought forward tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. Now, traditionally, the CDB grant we were eligible because we had a population of over 50,000 several years ago. Accordingly, my question is, does that increase as the population increases? And have we gotten the results of the census yet?
Potentially it can increase. There's a lot of different factors that go into play on that. I think, Grant, we're going to get the new census information, I think in May the 27th, maybe, I think was maybe the date. So we will get that new census information. So it probably will impact that. But one thing moving forward, and we've had these discussions before over the last couple of years, we are a direct recipient, and we get, as Grant said, we get a couple $100,000 a year. And it sounds like a lot of money, but with all the strings attached to it, it actually isn't. It's really difficult. And a lot of times we got to let the money kind of build up, to do a significant project. And it may be something here after this next year of funding, we may, and depending on what the census turns out to be, how much our grant would be, it may go up to 250 or something like that. But we may be better served to drop out of being what's called a participating jurisdiction, where we automatically get the money, and then be able to compete at the state level for the CDBG funds, where we can maybe do larger projects that were, particular projects we wanted to do. At this point in time, we're getting money, and then we're hustling, trying to find how to spend that money with the limitations. And then really, even though it's a couple $100,000 for the things that we're doing, and that's what Grant's coming back needing more money for the parking lot, because it was just very expensive to do that, and we didn't have enough money to do it. So it's that in between where it's a lot of money, but it's not really enough to do a whole lot, if that kind of answers.
Yeah, that's my first part of my question. My second part of my question is, and I ran into Johnny Garrett last week, asking him about additional money that we're probably going to get from the state via the federal government based on the new stimulus bill that was passed last week. Mayor, have you heard anything about that yet?
I've heard a lot, none of it without ambiguity. We've seen a figure of $5.5 million, but nobody can tell us what we're actually eligible for and what the restrictions are on that. I'm still seeking information on that. So to clarify, please don't think we're getting $5.5 million from the federal government.
No, I didn't. No, that's why I didn't say it. That's why I didn't quote a number at all. So do you think we'll have that? Do you think we'll have a good idea after session is over with the General Assembly in May?
I think it's going to come more down to what the federal government and what part of it coming through from HUD, part of it coming through some other agencies, what they provide. There is part of it also comes from the state. So yes, when the General Assembly finishes, that's going to be helpful. But when the federal agencies decide to send us some information, that's going to be helpful as well.
So do you think they'll go into special session to allocate those funds at that point?
I don't know.
All right. Well, just hopefully it'll be in time for budget time and we could get more police.
I feel confident that timing will fit in with that timing. I don't feel confident that in the next couple of weeks I'll know a definite.
No, I didn't think you would in the next couple of weeks. I'm just hoping and praying we have some more funds for our some good projects that we have in front of us. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Free, I know in years, and Grant, thank you for all of your work on this. In years past, we've hosted community meetings for citizens in town who can apply for potential grants for their dwellings. Is that something that will be a part of this year?
Grant, you're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, actually, what we have, Kate Ritchie from Habitat for Humanity has contacted us, and she did previously. And one of the things that we added into the 5th year of the consolidated plan, which is the last year of that, is $7,500 as a partnership with Habitat to to look at working with them on a home repair project. We were a little concerned with adding too much funding into that line item just because of the 1.5 ratio that we have, and that's just another one of those things that Keith was talking about. We get that annual allocation, but we have to spend 1.5. Essentially, we get $200,000. If we get, we have to maintain under $300,000, or else HUD, starts to look at taking money away from us if we don't spend it in an amount of time that's within a year. So that's one of the things that we have some trouble with there. But we did add that in as a partnership with them to try to help look at something like that, which kind of ties into the nonprofit question earlier that Mr. Robertson had. I think that's a beneficial thing that would count as a kind of a assistance to a nonprofit.
Okay, so Director Free, are we not doing what we did in years past where we hosted a community meeting for folks that wanted to make improvements who qualified?
Yeah, I think that's a different program. That's called the Home program, and that was done, I think, initially out of the codes department. And so
Are we
Grant
still...
and I we don't have anything to do with that particular thing. And what Grant was talking about was a new initiative that we're looking at next year. It's really not in what you're voting on tonight, but it'll be something that'll come before you in the next couple of months, looking at doing a pilot program.
So codes, that's right. It was Mr. Mills.
Yeah, and it was $500,000. It was $500,000 that was available for that. And as we look at all these different things that we can use this money, and it's a lot of money. But as we look at it, Grant, I have to say Grant does a great job with the CDBG program. It's certainly nothing. It's probably just, he only has about 15%, 10 to 15% of his job kind of takes care of that. The rest of it, he's doing planning. But when we're looking at where to fund, or if we're looking at funding nonprofit subrecipients and that type of thing, we've got to be careful because we could get in a position where we don't really want to fund a full-time position just to kind of oversee all the subrecipients projects. Yeah, and we have to have, if we're giving money to nonprofits, they have to be very sharp nonprofits that can take all the responsibility, because all the liability is going to come on the city. Correct. They're not going to look at who we're giving the money to. HUD is. They're going to look at us. But that's a very good question, though.
And so, if for example, like we were to explore something like the HVAC unit at a new building that the city is building, would we be subjected to choosing, or they have their own list of contractors and subcontractors that we must use? Is that correct?
Well, it didn't work quite like that. You're under all of the federal guidelines, and one of those is prevailing wage. And so basically prevailing wage, just for even the project at the senior center, it add about 20 to 28% more on the cost. That's what happened. And that's what we have to be careful is with, I love the idea that Alderman Roberson had about the HVAC at 7, and we're going to look at that. But the problem is if we do that, then that money, for lack of a better word, is going to contaminate the project, and the whole project's got to be prevailing wage. So we're going to, we may cost more than we're saving, because now we're going to add 20% because it's all got to be prevailing wage. And I think Grant has probably said this in the Public Works Committee, but when you're bidding out to contractors that know how to do prevailing wage, not everybody wants to mess with it. So then the number of contractors really shrink down, and then the cost goes up as well.
Well, I guess that you explained it beautifully. That was the point that I was going to get to, because it just gets a little bit hairy with subcontractors at that point.
It's kind of frustrating, because if the government's giving us the money, give us some good checks and balances, but don't hamstring the communities where it makes it it makes it so difficult and costly to spend the money.
Sure. Well, I like the idea of, finding projects in town that obviously help our city lessen the burden on our general fund and tax base. I know that within, the ADA program, we've got a pretty hefty list of improvements, and that would be in conjunction with Public Works. And those are very simple projects. Those are, projects like curb cuts, sidewalks, maybe a little bit of site improvement, but very, very simple projects that you just cannot mess up. And the prevailing wage wouldn't be as high as, say, a specialty of, any type of mechanical installation. And if you don't mind looking into those projects as well, I think we could get a lot of bang for our buck with some sidewalks. And I think it would be very easy to identify those areas that they would fall within the requirements that HUD needs.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll look at those. My number one vote for sidewalks is New Shackle Island Road.
Agreed.
Where we need them the most. But yeah, we'll look at those projects. And Grant, last year's budget is a good example of that. Grant, we determined that we could do the HVAC at the senior center, which in turn freed up $75,000 in general fund money that gave BOMA the opportunity to not spend that 75 on the AC, because we're going to cover that. And so we'll look to do the same thing with this next grouping of money.
Okay, so Mr. Green, you're able then to look into possible sidewalk / ADA, and that way we're also kind of hitting two birds with one stone, because we have a lot of ADA work that we need to do in town.
Yes, ma'am. And actually, I'm on the ADA committee, and I've seen the list of projects, and it's pretty scary.
Yeah.
So
we could really make a lot of headway.
Yes,
go
ma'am.
ahead.
One of the great things is too, this project with the senior center, it should address some of the exterior ADA issues that we had, or so that we had some others everywhere, but also in the 5th year, along with that, along with the Habitat for Humanity allocation, the remainder's allocated and slated to go to sidewalk and street, sidewalk, and drainage improvements. So that's certainly something that within LMI areas we could definitely look at.
Okay, wonderful. So is that something that you can send us some information at some point, or what would be the best way to address that?
Yeah, I think so. I think once we get the senior center, once we get all this approved, hopefully, and it goes to HUD and they approve all this, once we get rolling on the senior center and getting that hopefully finished up over the next 6 months or so, we can look at the 5th year. We won't receive that funding anyway until probably, we won't get a grant contract on it until probably October or November at the earliest.
Sure.
So, but I mean, it never hurts to plan ahead.
Sure. I love strategic planning. Thank you, Grant, and thank you, Director Free. Appreciate everything you do, Mr. Green. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Petrelli, thank you. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is for Grant. On the CDBG money, in the years past, we've paved and put curbs and gutters in neighborhoods. How about around the senior citizens area over there? What about Shivel Drive, Plumley, Noakes, Cages, Stadium Drive, Imperial? Can we do paving on those streets? Do they meet the impact area for the LMI?
I'm not sure offhand, but I'm almost certain all that is within the LMI tracks. Most of the western side of town there is falls within those LMI tracks. So there are certain areas that are excluded, but just because of the high income, but for the most part, I think most of where you're talking about would qualify.
Well, it's not out of the question possibly come back and get Cages and Imperial from, say, Walton Ferry up to Main Street and Stadium Drive, Notes, and through that area. I mean, that's something I think we really need to look at as well. So thank you.
The only caveat to that, I might jump in, is we can do road projects and sidewalk, but it has to be either brand new road or brand new sidewalk, or we've got to reconstruct. And by reconstruct, we got to take it down to base and really totally redo it. So just, putting paving over, we can't do that.
Okay, well, I was just curious due to the, I know we did curbs and gutters a couple of years ago with the CDB in the community, went in and redid the entire area. I was just curious if we could do that here as well.
Yeah, it met
Let's
that.
try to figure out where we can do that.
It met that definition of reconstruction with what we did over in, I can't think of the name of those streets, but we did several streets over there.
Around Iris, yeah.
Yeah, Iris, I remember it well. That's why made me think of that. So paving's a hot topic, and that's why I want to throw that out there just in case. Cages would be a good one for a rebuild.
Yeah.
Cages Road, if you drive down it, it's really rough. So just throw that out. Thank you.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Peterson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify with Director Free. I don't believe CDBG pays for sidewalks or roads. Is that correct?
Yeah, it does. We can do sidewalks with our money that we get directly from HUD. I think the state, with the money it gets, it puts some different restrictions on that, but you can do any public improvement projects within low to moderate income census tracts.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman.
Alderman Peterson, thank you. Keith and Grant, thank you for your help as well. All those in favor of resolution 2021-14, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Larry.
Aye.
13 ayes.
Thank you, Annette. That passes unanimously. Now we have resolution 2021-17. This is a resolution designating a municipal advisor for the city with regards to evaluating and assisting with refinancing the city's current debt service. Alderman Cunningham.
So moved, Mayor. And I wanted to, I need a second.
Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Cunningham, a second from Alderman Campbell. Alderman Cunningham.
Okay, I wanted just to have Robert explain this quickly about why we need this person.
Sure.
Robert?
So what we're doing here is designating a municipal advisor. They're going to act on our behalf. Should we decide to refinance or refund. But first, what they'll do is put together a few scenarios for us to a few options that we'll review and decide what the best path forward will be at that point. You know, we'll bring things forward, and if the board sees fit at that point, we will refinance or refund or do none of it truly. But at that point, that should be coming sometime shortly in April. And like I said, they'll act on our behalf in the sale.
Alderman Cunningham.
And then Robert, this is, if we see fit to do business with these people, at that point in time, they will be contracted with us. Is that right? And we don't pay them anything until we accept whatever they're showing us.
Sure. Yes. So after the board vote tonight, if it were to be approved, we would then enter into contract negotiations. And you are correct. We would not pay the fee, their fee associated with the refinancing, unless we chose that option. There are some other services that we could utilize them for, specifically regarding debt management, putting together a plan for the future, and those would kind of come into play with an hourly rate. But again, we only pay as used. And if we end up going with none of those scenarios, we wouldn't pay for that.
So we have to see the value that they're bringing to the table on behalf of the city.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. Robert, what brought this to daylight? Can you tell the board?
So it was expressed to myself from several aldermen that we wish to refinance. And in the course of doing so, I looked at the last time we've kind of considered this and spoke to the comptroller's office and MTAS about best way to go about it. And one of the recommendations was to get a municipal advisor first, and then we will do the refinancing portion shortly thereafter, if that is what the board recommends.
So that's something that you can't handle. You need a advisor.
Well, if it's not mandatory, but if we didn't hire someone to do it on our behalf, our department would end up taking care of it. And what happens there during negotiations is either you pay someone to act on your behalf, in which they have the city's best interest at heart and they are contractually obligated, or you end up paying for it through some sort of underwriter who may not specifically have the city's best interest, may not be contractually obligated there to look out for us and to get the best rate.
Alderman Waters, anything else?
Thinking, wait a minute. I'm just concerned why this has been brought up now. Are you saying it's mandatory, Robert?
No, I'm not at all. I'm saying if.
Okay, let me ask you while you're thinking. Let me ask you this. I don't know how long you've been here, but did we need it 2 years ago or 3 years ago? I don't know how long you've been here, but.
Well, can I answer that?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
I'm curious what you're referring to 2 years ago.
Alderman Waters, this is for a refinancing, and I don't think we've done a refinancing. Robert, when was last time we did a refinancing?
We refunded in 2013, and this
2013.
This is the entity that acted on our behalf in 2013.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say.
The reason that we needed advisors is because we are refinancing.
Mm-hmm.
This is for strictly refinancing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor, for answering that.
Alderman Waters, anything else?
I don't know. Is Alderman Cunningham, she through?
She's got her hand up. We'll go to her in just a second.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Waters. Next is Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Cunningham, how was Raymond James selected?
I'm going to turn that over to Robert because he had put out proposals. Robert?
Yeah, we requested proposals of qualifications from 3 different institutions in accordance with TCA and MTAS, and reviewed each proposal based upon our request, and we stated during our request the sort of the criteria that we would be evaluating on, and qualifications, certifications with the SEC and MSRB. We would, after we reviewed all of those items, one of which had to do, like I said, with Raymond James had a good number of certifications. I can pull that information for you in just a moment if you'd like to know, but we having a history with them, and one of our outstanding debt obligations, as I said, Raymond James has worked on before for us. It just felt like the right decision to make at that point.
Yeah.
Do they charge the lowest fees?
They were not the lowest of all. One did not have fees listed. We did actually set a list of requirements that we do need. And one did not. Fees were a part of that, but one did not have the fees listed, so I couldn't tell you exactly what they were going to quote us. But there was a $2,400 difference, and we felt the extra certifications lent Raymond James in this regard sort of came out ahead.
And do you have any idea how much savings we will get for refinancing?
Initial reports, and that, of course, I'm glad you asked that, because that's actually one of the other criteria, which was Hendersonville specific information that we requested. And one of the initial reports in the proposal
was looking at around 400, possibly more, depending on the market, but around $400,000 over the next 12 years total, not per year, but 400,000 over the next 12.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Peterson, thank you. Alderman Collins.
Robert, how much is our total debt right now?
Great question.
That we would refinance. That we would refinance.
That we would refinance. Okay. Around, depending on terms and conditions, I believe we are at 8 million that we would end up refinancing.
And we all know that interest rates are really low right now. So what have you seen the interest rates? What do you expect us to get if it were today?
Ooh, that's a great question.
I mean, just like between 1 and 2 or between 2 and 3?
Between 1 and 2 for sure. I don't expect it to rise above 2.
So, I mean, I think we all know that now is the time to look at it. $8 million is a lot of money. And this kind of transaction is actually a very highly specialized transaction. So this is like, do you have your pediatrician perform heart surgery? Because yeah, he's a smart guy and he can learn how to do this, just as Robert and his staff are intelligent people and they can learn how to do this. Or do you hire a specialist who knows how to do this and has done it on a regular basis, not every 8-9 years? It only makes sense to do this. And I just want to clarify that if we get the information back and we don't decide to refinance, there's not a fee. The fee is only if we act upon it. So we're not spending money. And of course, if we get back a thing and it says, oh, you're only going to save $30,000 if you refinance and our fee is $27, then we're not going to do that to save $3. So it's actually really encouraging to me that the fee was as high as it is, because they can look at the information and they already know they're not going to charge you a fee that discourages you to take action. So they already anticipate that we're going to save a ton of money by doing this, and their fee will be reasonable, or else we would not use them. So I'm really excited. I'm thrilled to hire this person. It's going to save us a ton of money. I can't wait. And I'm definitely supporting this.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Alderman Brown.
I don't have much to say other than I echo pretty well everything what Rachel just said. And Robert and I had discussed this before it came to general committee. And to refinance at this time, probably if I ask everybody on this screen right now, if they refinanced their house in the past 6 months, I'd say probably a third of you have, or you're either considering it, because interest rates are at pretty well an all-time low. As a matter of fact, they're looking at creeping back up. So I think if we do this, we need to do it now. I think Raymond James has proved to us a few years ago that they saved us money. Sometimes buying the cheapest tire is not the way to go. Maybe you buy the second better tire, which is probably what Robert's saying in country boy terms. We're buying a little bit better tire, but we're going to get more service out of it, and we're going to save $400,000 roughly, give or take, in the long run. So I think you strike while the iron is hot. I heard that somewhere one time, and I believe tonight's time to strike. Thanks.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add just one other note. Our experience with the same company, with the same financial institution in 2013, when we refinanced our debt, Gary Forsyth, who was a longtime 30-year banker, led that charge because he was chairman of the finance back then. And he worked with Ron Minix, our then finance director, and they gave us exceptional service. They gave us a really good deal. I can't remember how much we saved on that refi back in I think it was 2013. And it was a very, very seamless process. They really performed. So I would highly encourage the board to support this resolution. Thank you. Thank
Alderman
you.
Cunningham, thank you. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank Alderman Collins. She made a real great comment just a minute ago, and I appreciate that. Thank you. So as I understand it, if we don't take their recommendation, we don't pay nothing. Is that right? Okay. And I believe, Robert, you said this gentleman was picked from he's in a firm already?
So Raymond James is the name of the firm.
Okay, so it'll be one of his employees, I guess, huh?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Okay.
And several, actually.
Yeah, it sounds like a good deal. And again, I want to thank Alderman Collins. Thank y'all. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Waters, thank you. Alderman Collins.
Robert, I do want to clarify, we are engaging them for some small fees that are not completely a part of the refinance. Is that accurate? So there are some fees that we would be obligated to.
We could. Well, I wouldn't say obligated, no.
Outside of the refinance?
Correct. We could utilize them in another capacity if we saw fit. Like I said, for some futuristic planning, for possibly review of our debt, our current debt structure, or policies, procedures, some of those things. But the main point here is for refinancing. It's just a part of the request that we included that as a potential.
I just didn't want to mislead Mr. Waters, Alderman Waters, into thinking that there were no possibilities of fees unless we refinance, because there are other decisions that we could make that would incur fees as we explore this relationship with them. But this is just giving you permission to formally form that relationship and explore what they can offer us.
Right, right.
Is that true? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Robert, thank you for your help with this. All those in favor of resolution 2021-17, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
Thank you, Annette. That passes unanimously. Annette, do you need a break?
That would be nice. Brief one.
I don't see anybody objecting. How about we take a 5-minute break? We're not going to take a vote on it. I just won't call on anybody for 5 minutes, and we'll come right back here. Thank you.
Okay, but you got a 5-minute break here.
Jason, can they hear what I just said? Y'all, we're getting ready to start. Mary Beth, are we good to go?
We are, sir.
Thank you. Glasses. Jason, we're good. Annette? Okay. Next on the agenda was vote on reappointment or appointment of the city judge. We've already disposed of that. Brief committee report, Chairman Cunningham, Finance Committee.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mayor. Hold on a minute. Let me get my finance guys here. Here they are. Okay, we had our finance meeting tonight. Oh, excuse me. Under ordinance, we had ordinance 2021-10 and ordinance amending budget ordinance 2020-20 appropriating the amount of $16,500 for the police to purchase the wrecked 2019 Harley Davidson motorcycle. That was recommended unanimously. Under resolutions, we had resolution 2021-10, a resolution to adopt a fund balance policy for the city of Hendersonville. That was recommended unanimously. That will be coming before the board in 2 weeks. Resolution 2021-17, a resolution designating a municipal advisor for the city with regard to evaluating and assisting with refinancing the city's current debt service. That has come before the board tonight. That was recommended unanimously. Resolution 2021-18, a resolution authorizing the transfer of $2,500 from the golf course HVAC account to the dog park renovations account, was recommended unanimously. And resolution 2021-19, a resolution authorizing the transfer of $31,690 from the golf course paving account to supplemental paving. That was recommended as amended unanimously. And under other business, we had our sales tax analysis report. Our February collections were $269,000 over last February. Our year-over-year additional revenue so far with sales tax, we're trending upwards, is $1,377,814. So that is wonderful news. Our cash flow analysis report was, we're doing good there year over year. We had our stormwater utility report. And also it looks like with the trend, the way the trend is going, I asked Robert what his forecast was. Our ending general fund should be around the $5.2 to $5.3 million mark. So we're in good shape, Mayor. Thank you.
Chairman Cunningham, thank you. Annette, I should have asked you, only thing we have left at this point, I think, Public Works Committee report, interim administrator report, and then the mayor's report. Is that all we have left?
That is correct.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Chairman Cunningham. Chairman Skidmore, Public Works.
Thank you very much. We had our committee meeting tonight. We have a lot on the agenda, but the main things I want to speak to everyone tonight is I want to let the board collectively know we have finished our paving plan. We have not actually, even though we released it to the alderman, if they need it, they can get it. Or if anyone needs it, they can get it, but we're still talking about it. Don't want to really say much more than that, except I just want to reiterate, we're looking, if you want this kind of plan, you're looking at $2.8 million, going to be asking for anywhere from 2.5 to 2.8. So want to let you all know that. We kind of let you know several months ago, but I'm going to reiterate it tonight. I also want to let everybody know we're just about done with our budget in terms of what our needs and wants are. I think you'll be pleasantly, when we release it to you guys, after the whole collectively, the board, the committee rather, votes on it, and after the mayor looks at it, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that once again we've come up with a great budget. Very proud of Marshall and the staff, Sarah, and others. There's one more, and I don't know. I can't just think of right now because I'm kind of tired. And Marshall and the committee's come up with a great plan, and you'll be pleased with it in the coming months. Another thing, we're going to be coming here in the near future about the cell tower, the agreement. We're probably going to call a special call meeting on that to let the committee know about it, where we are on it. Great work by our esteemed colleague in Ward 6, Eddie Robertson. We can't appreciate you enough, brother. The things you do with amazing work that you do. We appreciate it with those cell towers. You're an amazing man, and I appreciate that very, very much. The other, I'm trying to go just read quickly, and then we'll be through. Oh, and then one other thing, I do want to make an announcement, but I'd rather have our mayor announce it about the bags, about collecting up the leaves and things that are in our homes or in the front and backyards, side yards. So, Mayor, are you going to do that later on, or do you want to do it now, or do you want to do it at all?
How about right now?
Okay, let's go ahead.
Starting April 1st, our city staff will no longer pick up yard waste that's in plastic bags. We will continue to pick up yard waste that is in paper bags, and those paper bags are available at Ace Hardware, at Home Depot, and at Lowe's. Checked with all the managers there, and they have those bags available, and they'll make sure that they're available. The problem is that this is really a recycling effort, and we don't want plastic bags part of a recycling effort because they don't recycle. And they're also causing problems in our machinery. We'll get an awful lot of publicity out about this, and I'll send something to all the aldermen about it probably in the next couple of days. And like I said, we'll continue to pick up yard waste as long as it's in the paper bags. And those paper bags at those 3 locations cost about 50 cents each. So thank you, Chairman Skidmore.
Thank you very much. And in defense of the mayor on that, the Public Works Committee has been talking about this for several years on how to approach this. And we've just finally decided this is the year to do it. You know, we've got recycling coming up. We've got, we almost hit it, a home run with it last year, but we just needed a little more of massaging the issue before it came to budget. But we will be during budget time talking about all those projects. But we're ready. We're just about ready, probably within the coming weeks, for our committee, as well as anyone else that wants to listen and join in about where we are on our budget. So anyway, that's about it. We did a little more things within the committee, but we'll wait another month or so before we come in. Our paving projects are on their way for spring and summer. We just have to be careful. Right here, we're on the cusp of the warmer weather, and right now we have a little cooler weather and rain, but just trust me when I tell you, our paving is going on project, and I'm excited about that. And in the coming months, I'll be able to tell you a lot more in the spring and also especially in the summertime when it gets really hot. And that's in Public Works, that's the way we like it. So anyway, I hope everybody has a good evening this evening, and that's about it in Public Works at this point.
Chairman Skidmore, thank you. Mr. Harbismeyer, Interim City Chief of Operations.
I want to kind of pick up where I left off last meeting.
Your mic.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. Thank you. I want to kind of pick up where I left off at the last meeting with the transition. And I'm extremely happy to report things are going very smoothly. And with that, you've heard me say that was one of my main objectives, to make this transition as smooth as possible. But I really would like to give a lot of credit back to the department heads and their staff. So that was my main objective, but I have to give them credit because they have really stepped up and gone above and beyond
to make me feel welcomed here as far as this position. Done everything they can to help facilitate this smooth transition as well. So it's been a really good team effort. And I don't think we've missed a beat. So I just want to personally and professionally say thank you to all the departments for making this part of this transition very smooth as we go on. And with that, we're going to be leading right into the next transition with Mr. Eckenroth coming on board. So with that, we've been in communications with him. We've already talked about and had discussions on what that looks like in the first few days so we can make that smooth transition on the backside. So really, in a nutshell, the city shouldn't even blink. We're just going to keep on running the operation, and it's going very well. And so with that and looking at those days, and I think I talked at last meeting about the informational packets on each department. And those are complete now, so you'll be able to pick those up and start out hitting the ground running without having to worry about gathering up all this information. So again, we've sent him information for him to start looking at the budget schedules and so forth. And so he's already preparing. And so that's a very good sign that he's got those things in mind, stepping into this role. He's already preparing as he's dealing with the job at hand back home and all the inner workings of making that move. So very excited about that. One other thing I wanted to share with you is we're trying to also improve some of our internal control processes. And what I mean by that, on large projects, such as the fire hall, inline hockey, these are multi-million-dollar projects. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of balls in the air. And what we're doing internally is making sure that when we have meetings that deal with these projects, that we have all the correct players at the table so we don't miss any moving parts. All the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, and that's from every department that has a role. And so with that, we were minimize errors, minimize oversights, not only from the prospect of the project, but also making sure we're on financial track with the budget and cost overrun. So we're looking at doing that internally. The last thing I wanted to mention is obviously, as you know, the budget packets have gone out. They've come back and now they're in finance's hand. Robert has those. He's going through those, making the spreadsheets and so forth to be prepared to go to the one-on-one individual department meetings and progress with that. So we're on track for our first budget workshop in April, and everything is in line for that. So with that, that's my report. But again, I just really wanted to say thank you to the department heads for making this a good, smooth transition.
Paul, thank you.
Any questions?
Appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Harbismeyer. You're doing a great job. I appreciate the professionalism that you're using, exhibiting,
Thank you.
And also giving credit to the department heads. I'm well pleased. But I have two issues. One issue has to do with paving. And I first want to thank Public Works, Trace, and all of their staff for the hard work they're doing. They're working on roads all over the city.
They are.
And it's a good sight to see, but I have to bring forward, and I've already talked to Trace about this, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. I've had some of my constituents in Ward 6 complain about the length of time when the city mills, gets the surface ready, mill it, grind it down, the delay between that and actual paving. So if you would, talk with Public Works and see if there's any way that we can speed up. I know weather is a big factor.
Scheduling is a factor, weather is a factor, but I'll absolutely do that to see if we can align that in a more effective and time efficient manner. I'll be glad to do that.
Perfect. The other thing that I wish you would do during the budget process, talking with department heads, is to look specifically at the expenses for the city's cellular phones, and just make sure that we are getting the best. I mean, I know that a lot of cell phones have specials and discounts and all that. So just look, as you're reviewing the departments, look to see if there's any efficiency measures that we can take by maybe bundling
Cost savings.
Cost savings.
Exactly.
If you would look at that, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor. That's all.
Thank you, Alderman Robertson. Paul, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let me go to, I want to hear from Dallas as part of my report. Dallas, can you fill us in on a couple things?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Just want to give you a few updates on things coming up with the Parks Department. The first is the Isaacs Group will be performing a free concert to the community on Memorial Day in Veterans Park. You can get your tickets there either at the Parks main homepage website or on our Facebook page. So that's a new event that we've added to our calendar in 21, and it's something that we're really excited about hosting this year. And then the second item coming up is the Parks 10-year master plan. That's obviously going to be very important in shaping the future of our park system and the projects and the different funding that we'll look to obtain. So we currently have a survey out, which went out live last week and will be posted for about a month. And we're asking everyone in the community to help participate in that and give us your feedback and voice your opinions. You can get that survey either on our website page as well or on our Facebook page. The survey has already gained about 750 results, and our consultant says a typical survey only gets about 500 over that month span. So that's obviously a very good sign, and our community has set the bar high and shows that parks are important to Hendersonville. So we're excited about the results we've gotten so far, and all the support we're getting from this. So lastly, just a reminder, on Monday night, we have a combined Parks Board meeting, a Parks Board and BOMA meeting with our consultant, and that'll be a great opportunity for you all to help put your vision towards the parks and where we're going to go forward over the next 10 years. So I appreciate the time and be able to tell everyone a little bit about what we have going on. Thank you, Mayor.
Dallas, thank you.
Mayor, I move to adjourn.
We have a motion from Alderman Dixon and a second from Alderman Peterson. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Larry.
Aye.
13 ayes.
That passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Annette. Y'all have a good night. Thank you, Mary Beth, and thank you, Jason. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mayor.